I'm 22 years old, female, and I've met the love of my life. So I decide to go ahead, get married to my wife. Well, get this. She started asking me all these weird questions about my father's insurance life policy. And the weirdest thing is, she asked me to put on the insurance policy that she wants to be a part of it too. I mean, I didn't really overthink it too much at the time because she's so smooth with her words. But imagine my absolute surprise when my father passes away in a horrible car accident just mere days after her name's put on the insurance policy. And get this, it turns out my brother, he's the one responsible for the policy, so he's the one that had to make the change on paper. So not only am I a little suspicious about my wife, it turns out my brother is even more suspicious, and now he's blaming the death of our father not on my wife, on me, and saying some very rude things, which include this. I'm 22 and female, and I could not get a hold of the whole thing that took place in the past few days. I didn't know how to react to this turn of events that had brought me to this place, and, well, my father died in a fatal car accident just a few days ago, and I'm forced to believe that my lesbian wife has something to do with this. I just need your help, guys, to figure out my next move in the situation. Let me start this story of mine from the beginning itself. To give you guys a full overview of the situation, I met Grace, my wife, just some years ago at my school reunion party. She was there with some girl from the batch, and there was something in her that took my interest in her the very first instance I laid eyes on her. It could be her purple hair or her cool attitude that drove my attention towards her, I'm not sure. But at the time, I felt kind of strange affinity towards her. Just like me, she got a hold of something in me that attracted her towards me, and it did not take long for much to introduce herself before the lunch. Her voice had this savory touch to it, which perfectly aligned with her cool demeanor, and her appearance totally justified the way she was, bold, daring. I got along with her quite well, though we did not come close as the other girl whom she was there with, and she was not happy at all with me entertaining her for long. She seemed to be quite over-possessive of Grace at the time, and who is one that would not be possessive over Grace, as she deserved that extra attention and care from someone. Ooh. That was what I used to think back then. She could not get along with the other girl for long and simply broke up with her, after they had some issues over financial issues, and Grace used to work as a salesperson in some electronic company, where she would sell the required products to the households, and her income significantly varied over the sales that she would make per month. Sometimes it would become quite hard for her to manage her expenses, that she used to borrow money from some of her friends, while on some days she would earn enough money to party for months, non-stop. It was her attitude to be in the present and live life to the fullest which attracted her the most. After that, we bumped into each other at one of our common friends' parties, and this time we got the time to know each other even better, and it turned out that we found it difficult to lay our hands on each other. I was clear in my mind of having her by my side for the rest of my life. I knew that she was the one who could embrace me with full confidence and care. Thereafter, we went on various dates and parties together, and Grace is a party animal, I'll be the first to tell you that. She could not resist the glow of clubs and parties, and even when she found it difficult to support herself, she would enjoy that gloomy nightlife at the expense of others. She would borrow it from her friends and would promise to repay them after weeks or months, which she did to some extent, but her friends would refuse to lend her money again, as they could not bear her overspending habits. I suspect this might have been the reason why that girl from the reunion party and all others who dated her might have left her for. While she was with me, I pretty much paid for the most of the expenses that we shared together. And trust me, I had no issues spending out of my savings for her enjoyable company. It was certainly the most loving time of my life, spending most of her time at the coffee shops, discussing common stuff and
honestly partying like wild animals in the night till we both lost control. Things went on this way until one day she proposed to me for marriage. Well, I was absolutely flabbergasted at the moment and could not think of anything, though I knew that I certainly don't want to refuse this proposal of hers as well. So I agreed to get demand, and we married in a beautiful setting of some beautiful island beside the beach. It was all funded by my father, and everything, including my 2 brothers and elder sister, were present, along with their respective family. If I forgot to tell you about my dad, then let me go ahead and disclose here that he owns a real estate company in the middle of our city. He loves me the most out of all the siblings, and he's the one who supported my business of cosmetics that I own, which is the reason I'm able to spend all such hefty amounts in my lavish style. At first, he was not pleased to hear about my marriage with Grace, as he did not like Grace's behavior and her also careless nature, but that was exactly what attracted me to her. He suggested looking for someone better who could partner my joy and sorrow together. Yet I was adamant at the time to marry Grace at any cost, so he agreed to my proposal after discerning my true intentions with Grace. Contrary to my father's thoughts, my brother was just extremely happy with my decision. They valued my thoughts on the decision of my life partner and had no say in any of my marriage concerns. They both have always been supportive of my lesbian thing from the beginning itself, and even helped me in explaining the whole point to my father, who, as usual, refused to believe me at first. My older sister, who lives far off in some other city, has quite reserved herself from the issues of our family. She was the last to know about my sexuality and was also last to be informed about my marriage with Grace. Needless to say, she truly did not have any interest in passing out any suggestions or thought about my relationship. After marriage, Grace shifted to the house that I owned near my cosmetic store, saving her the money that she was paying for the apartment that she had rented, and I would often be involved with my cosmetic production and sales analysis while she would be resting at our house all day. At night, she would just wake up and join me to go clubbing, and we would both enjoy ourselves while dancing to the beats, cherishing the drinks at the bar. This was pretty much what happened for a few weeks. She seemed to have left her job in sales just to rest all day and party all night. I clearly had no issue with it since I was pretty much involved in my store work. We were planning to launch a new cosmetic product into the market, and so the planning and other research work was on board for and just decided the design, packaging, marketing, such. We both were relaxing in the yard of our house one day, after long hours of drinking and dancing the day before, and when Grace right away sought to discuss with me insurance policies that my father had been investing in. At first, it made me confused, and I had to recall that if I have ever even told her about the insurance policy that my father has been investing in for quite some time. After a little bit of struggle, I remembered that I have not told her about any of the details related to my father's policy. So, I confronted her right away to know how can she even know about this policy thing as I haven't told her. She paused. It was for a bit and then revealed to me that it was my father who had told her about this, as he was looking into some of the details in the policy about me. I ignored the issue as I didn't know anything about the policy till that point. Moreover, I clearly had no intention of knowing about any further. I remained involved with my work and my cosmetic production store as the final day for the launch of the design was rapidly approaching. And we needed to know the reaction of the people right towards our design. So we were collecting reviews and comments from different corners. And to be honest with you, I even tried to offer Grace a job at my store, but she just straight up refused. There were some behavior changes in her that I noticed after the marriage. She was not that fun-loving person anymore, who was excited for every opportunity and chance in life. With him, she had become dull and boring, and all she did was wonder just while laying on the sofa till nighttime. Again, one night, she came towards me with the appeal to influence my father to get us involved in that very insurance policy that he has been looking after. To be honest with you guys, it angered me at first to know how this whole thing just grabbed so much of her attention, and how she could not possibly get this thing off of her mind. So, I tried explaining to her about the thing that I could not ask my father to share with me the insurance policy, as it was any more important to me than I'm sure that he must have shared it with me before itself. I gave up explaining things to her after her constant refusal to get any of these points. At last, I made it clear to her that I would talk about these things with my father and will do whatever she says. The other day, I called my father to get both of our names enlisted on the insurance policy that he's been carrying for some time. He took no time in accepting my view about the things, and yet he asked me why all of a sudden? Well, I got reminded of the insurance policy thing, and I clearly disclosed to him that it was Grace who thought about it, and it was completely her idea to get our names on the policy. Despite being a bit suspicious of Grace, he comforted me that it was quite all right for them to know about the premium. Right away, I confronted the news to Grace that my father had agreed to her demands, and it would be done just within a few days. It was the launch of my new cosmetic product, and we were all too excited about it. Even Grace was present there beside me to boost my confidence. We received a huge round of applause from all the partners and providers who were present at the function, and they were quite eager to bring this product into market. It was then that I received a call from my father, who wanted to congratulate me on this huge success of mine. While he was talking to me, he was driving to reach for his project somewhere, and I quickly held up the phone as I was called on by boards to deliver a speech for the launch. I received this huge appreciation from all my staff and friends as I set foot on stage. At first, I thanked my producers and partners for having so much confidence, and thereafter, I thanked my staff for bringing up the plan to the forefront. For me, it was the best day of my life. I didn't know that this best day of my life is going to become the worst nightmare of my life in just a few moments. So, we both were moving back to our house for getting ready to attend the night party of our company when my oldest brother called me to inform me that my father had met an accident on the road while returning from his visit, and this accident, it was fatal. So fatal that he never regained his consciousness. And well, yeah, I was terrified of listening to my father's situation when my brother disclosed that he and my other siblings were pretty sure that it was done by my wife, Grace, and that she has something to do with it. I wasn't able to get hold of the news when this other thing about Grace came to light, though. He said that he came to know from my father that Grace wanted you both to be included in the insurance, and that my father has authorized my brother to fulfill the task. After that, he held up the phone that he was leaving for the hospital there, and he said that he would not forgive anyone if anybody comes to harm our father. Grace was sitting right beside me the whole time, and I was just looking at her expressions the whole time, and it was then that I came to know that she has done something wrong with the whole policy thing. Yet, I was not able to believe that Grace could do anything to kill or hurt my father. I knew that there was strife between her and my dad, but she didn't seem to be the person who would harm others for profit. Well, after a few moments, my brother called me yet again, just to inform me that our father has passed away from internal injuries from the accident, and they were just on their way to reach the hospital, where my father was being brought to. I wasn't able to believe that my father, who had just talked to me just a mere couple hours before, was no longer in this world. The happiest day of my life just became the most cursed day of my life. He was the reason for my every success in this life. He embedded in me the attitude to fight and long for the things I wish for in life, and he supported me with his money to open the cosmetic company of mine that I own now. At that moment, it seemed to me that the shadow of God and his shine has been carried away. My brother was still on the phone while I was thinking of all these things in my head and, well, my heart. He was yet to say something that he had said in the previous call, and this time he targeted me alone for the killing of my father. He ridiculed me for planning the surreal act of murder of my father with my wife Grace just to get a hold of money that he has invested in the policy all these years. I grew tired of explaining to him that I have not done anything of that sort. It was after I hung up his phone that my older sister called me. It was after a while, and some 3 to 4 years, that she has called me. Before this, she was not interested in any of the upholding in our house whatsoever. I pretty much knew the reason for her call, so I just revised her call sometime to get a hold of Grace and her involvement with this whole thing. I had to know. Now, even I was in disguise as if my loving wife would be the reason for the death of my father. Hearing all the conversation with my brother on the phone, Grace got to my refuge for asking for mercy, as she did nothing wrong. She seemed quite real while asking for my forgiveness, yet I could not get a hold of her insights of the case, as her face showed sign of misconduct which had made her feel guilty of it. I'm in a constant state of puzzled as to what she could have done with Grace in this matter if I should hand her over to the police for the charge of murder, or I should just relieve her from the trouble. I know to some extent that she could not possibly inflict any damage on my family, yet she was not truly innocent in this case. So I rest on you people here. Please help me with this situation and just give me the correct choice that I should make here, relieving my situation further. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So it seems like we know Grace. She did something pretty bad, but we don't exactly know what yet. So there's 3 updates for this story, and the first update came out 6 months after the original post, and we're about to learn a lot. If you guys are new to the channel, take a second, hit that subscribe button for daily videos, and let's jump into update number 1. 6 months ago. Well, 6 months have passed since the whole incident that took away my father from my life. As you all suggested on this platform, I left my wife Grace away at the same moment I discovered this whole thing. Since then, I've not gauged a look at her ever since, though I have heard from some of my friends that she's been living away with family for a while. My brothers have broke all ties with me, and they still believe that I'm the one who, along with her evil wife, devised a plan to kill my father and get his money. Though they could not possibly forsake me for being all greedy over my father's money, as I've pretty much established an image of my own in this town and have my own money. My older sister is barely going to get into any of our family matters. Well, she's also declared me as the killer of our father, and I suspect it could be the mind of her lawyer husband who thinks of getting into our family truffle, just to get his own interests satisfied. Though I've completely diverted my interest from all these things, as I'm mostly involved with my cosmetic production, and I've done tremendous growth in terms of production and sales just in the last few months. My cosmetic production agency has grown from a single production center to 3 distinct production center facilitated across the city to offer overall coverage. One thing that still concerns me today is the reason why Grace demanded her involvement in the insurance, as it was clear from the results of the police investigation that neither Grace nor anyone else had anything to do with the accident that killed my father. It was just an accident that caused the death of my father, where the actual words of the investigation team withheld the investigation into the accident. Though My brothers still believe that me and my ex-wife Grace are the real reasons behind the death of my father. I don't know how someone could be so ignorant about the real truth. I knew from the beginning itself that Grace simply could not kill my father for any reason, as she was simply not the violent type of girl. Still, there was something that I just sensed in her eyes that day that enforced me to believe that there was guilt inside those eyes from some of her withholdings and wrongdoings, which was in some way aggravated by the whole incident. I have thought of this multiple times, and I could not possibly imagine the reason behind it. I even tried asking her again and again and again, but she did not tell me anything about it. There are times when I miss her in my life. Her attitude of not caring about the situation in life and just living life unconditionally is yet another thing I miss a lot in my life. While I was moving out of my office, I stumbled upon an envelope from the same agency where my father had signed the insurance policy so many years ago. I could clearly identify it as the name of the brand matched my childhood friend's surname, Woodstock. It was there for quite some time, as it was in a letterbox, and it now came out as it was up until the full limit. The letter was sent by the agency to initiate the process of getting the insurance money. Well, I sighed, seeing that it's the cause of all trouble between all my brothers and sister, as well as me and Grace, and I certainly had no interest in getting any of the amount yet, as I was concerned for my brother, who told me earlier that they have not received a letter from the agency yet, and their concern was also not met with due respect. I thought that they would have misplaced the address or something. But as I opened up the letter, it shocked me to see that Grace was enlisted as the sole receiver of the money that was to be repaid by the insurance agency. I took my phone to send the image of the letter to my brother, who were very eager to get some news about the insurance. As soon as I sent them the images, he called me to ask for more details of the insurance policy. He almost lost his mind thinking about how it could be true that Grace is the only receiver of the insurance policy, as he was the one who used to look into the insurance policy from time to time, and if only he added both of our names, then how could Grace become the true recipient of the sum? He asked me to come to the insurance agency office, along with the letter that I've received from them, and as I went there, we came to know about the series of insurance scams that have been done by one of their employees. And by the way, he left the agency some months ago. The agency was not aware of this whole insurance scam until one user filed a complaint with the police to investigate the matter of loss of his insurance money. The agency has sought to give the whole sum to the recipients, but the actual owners disclosed that they did not get anything. It was after that the whole chain of these insurance schemes came to the forefront. Though we were lucky to know that our insurance sum was still there with the agencies, as the letter that had brought with us needed for getting the repayment of the insurance was in our hand. Since nobody except us came to the letter of the agency for the repayment, well, it was not given to anybody. Not at all. We too were not able to get the repayment though, as Grace's name was enlisted on the documents, which made her the sole bearer of the insurance sum. Moreover, our insurance policy was put on hold by the agency, as an investigation was under process and our case was helpful in some ways for the police to look into the matter. Well, we gave the information that we had regarding Grace to the police, as she was the link between the guy who scammed the agency and us who have been scammed by them. Grace was now in some serious trouble for her respective actions, and we all knew that either Grace or the other guy would have contacted each other for joining hands on this deceitfulness. Still, I wanted to confront Grace in front of me as to why she had done this. What really enforced her to do such a treacherous act in my name? Update number 2. So, 3 weeks have passed since we got to know of the insurance fraud that was being inflicted upon the family and by my ex-wife Grace. The police have been looking for her location to catch her and the other guy who's the actual perpetrator of deceiving the other people of their peers' insurance money. My brothers have been getting regular updates on the investigation that's been going on by the police. Now they've initiated their relations with me as they came to know that I have no part in influencing the turn of events that led to the insurance. They now even pity me for being cheated on by an evil girl, Grace. Yet now all these things are absolutely worthless for me, as I've parted ways with them and I have no interest in learning with them. It was just that I needed to prove to them that I had no share in helping Grace to get over the insurance money that was accumulated by father. Moreover, I don't want to get that insurance sum for which my brothers have been longing for so long, as I have my own cosmetic production company that's garnered me so much wealth. Still, I wanted to get a hold of Grace this one last time, as I just need to know. What caused her to deceive me for all of this? I was just relaxing the other day with some of my friends at this club when my brother called me to inform me that the investigating officer has caught one of the accused of the insurance scam case. Now, they've not enclosed the identity of the individual as citing a few security reasons, and I and my brother are headed to the police station where they kept the accused responsible for causing so much trouble to the deceived individuals and running away with the money. While on the way to the police station, I was just praying that it was Grace that was caught, so that I can ask her the question that's been troubling me for so long. I reached the police station to find that my brothers were still on their way to the station, so I went ahead and waited on them. I did, just to get a hold of the accused sitting a wall away from me, and I thought of regretting the decision of getting along with Grace. Otherwise, all such things would have not unfolded, yet I craved her presence, which used to make me feel relieved when being in her very presence. And finally, my brothers arrived and we were allowed to check the accused, who has been seek to mislead the repayment of insurance coverage that my father has left us for. I was disappointed to find that it was not Grace who was caught. Despite this, it was the other guy who was responsible for carrying out the whole scam and just getting away with the cover of a number of people. It was good news for all the recipients, as now they could get back their money, which the guy stole. But actually, he has either spent all the money or either has given it to someone else. Though my brothers were really happy to get a hold of this individual, he worked there with the insurance filing and handled all the work of assembling the information on the form. After much inquiring, it came out that he used to align with the members of the deceiver's family or other relatives just to get the whole sum into the respective bank accounts of one person, which they would later divide among them equally, as he would get them as the sole recipient of the insurance coverage in the documents which would be replaced in the agency's database. In our case, he teamed up with Grace, my ex-wife, to get him as the receiver of my insurance coverage, since she was outside of our family, so he needed to have her on the list of potential cover recipients. This was the reason why Grace actually went ahead to enforce me, just to give her the insurance policy back. Then it was possible the reason why she behaved so differently all of a sudden. Well, still, one thing was clear about this whole thing that disturbs my mind continuously. What was the reason that she deceived me all through this? And I finally got back from the police station thinking of getting my answers once Grace was finally captured by the police. Update number 3. This is the final update. It was about a week since the culprit of the insurance scam was finally captured. That's right, by the police. My brother has gotten hold of the insurance money that they were wishing of getting from the agency, and the other individuals whose insurance sum was deflected to the snakes of their family, who traded it in half to get a hold of their whole money alone, were still far from their reach though. While I was in my cosmetic production center, seeing the growth of our newly launched hair salon shampoo, when I was called in by the police to give me their information that they've caught a girl who matches the description of Gracie. This news made me all feel young again. I found this extra energy within my toes that held me to the front seat of my vehicle, and I left for the police station right away. I was assimilating the thoughts that I've been getting for the past few weeks and was determined to get an answer to every single question. Well, as I reached there, I entered the room to find that it was Grace. It was Grace indeed, and I simply wasted absolutely no time at all, confronting her about the effect that her deceits have had on me while holding her neck by my arms, and I sought answers to the questions that I've been getting all this time. She was all tears to accept that she was the one who deceived me and my family for getting the sum that she was trying to get from the insurance agency. She enclosed that she was going through a financial crisis because of her gambling and drinking habits. Moreover, she had a huge debt from her gambling center, and they actually threatened to hurt her, well, kill her, for getting the money back, so she framed this plan of getting the insurance sum that was being deposited by my father. I was really heartbroken to know that she did this to me in return for all the love and care that I provided her. She disclosed that she was in love with me, yet she could not control the massive amount of debt that was on her. This made her lured into this scam that was being carried away by one of her friend's relatives. So she went to him for getting one portion of the coverage, and it was then that she was asked to get her name on the policy by the guy. Grace has been sentenced to jail time, a year, for trying to deceive my family of their cover, which was their sole right as it was planned for them by my father. I could not forgive her for the deceit and fraud that she had inflicted upon me and the family. Though I'd moved forward in my life, yet I wanted the answers to the thoughts that traveled in my mind often.
Alright guys, so I was contemplating if this story was legit. I was trying to find some comments and whatnot, maybe some from OP, but I did see an interesting comment that said, hey, this does not take place in America, and actually this sort of fraud is very, very common, and there's a lot of suspicious deaths in other countries that are tied to insurance policy fraud. So you never know. I mean, there's crazier stories. This one could actually be legit, and it's just so wild. But I do think the craziest part about this story is Grace. And why do I say that? Because at the end of it, we find out Grace, who had some sort of dealing with the father's accident, which we don't really understand how the accident took place because OP did not really talk about that too much. But what the craziest part to me is the fact that they have all this evidence against Grace. They know she was a part of this scam. They know something mysterious happened to the father's car accident. I mean, yeah, maybe he just passed away in a car accident and it was by chance or coincidence, the times just lined up. But they know all this, right? And she still only gets a year in prison. I mean, a year? She possibly did some sort of manslaughter/murder and stole all this money with fraud, and she gets a year? Anyways, this story was absolutely crazy. I want to hear from you guys. What do you think of it? Do you think it was baloney? Do you think it could be real? I mean, after this, I started looking up on Google some more stories like this and times that this happened through news articles, and I was blown away by all the weird death occurrences that happened just a few days after an insurance policy change. Drop your opinions down below. Thank you for joining me on today's video. If you're new to the channel, my name's Mr. Reddito. It was a pleasure to have you guys here today. I'll see you tomorrow. And remember, it's cool to be kind. I'll see ya.